This is Metroid. It's one of the longest running and most successful video game franchises in the history of the medium. And it holds two other key distinctions that are anomalies for gaming history. First, some fans are always surprised to discover that Samus is a woman. And second, it has one of the longest gestating sequels in gaming history, Metroid Dread. Having originally been announced for the Nintendo DS all the way back in 2005, the game was considered a phantom project. But a decade and a half later, the impossible has proven possible, with Dread finally landing on shelves. So the question is, why did it take so long? Why was the project so shrouded in secrecy? And was it worth the wait? The first Metroid game was released all the way back in 1986 on the NES. It quickly sparked a rabid fanbase of players who instantly became devoted to the series' charming blend of 2D platforming and space adventure aesthetics. In fact, the legacies of Metroid and Castlevania loomed so large that the genre has colloquially been renamed to Metroidvania. How do you rival that? How do you attempt to iterate on something that's so beloved that the genre, that it didn't invent, has been renamed after it? Well, you try your damnedest, and Nintendo has. Like most games in Nintendo's catalog, the naming convention for sequels is nothing short of schizophrenic. Despite there being 4 mainline entries into the franchise, there are no less than 17 games that bear the name Metroid, and feature Samus Aran as the lead. And they're all attempting to buck and strain against the legacy of that original game in new or unique ways. Some of them are outright terrible. Some of them are noble failures, and others are just mediocre. The differentiating factor is what separates these 3 groups, is how ambitious they are. And you can feel the difference between a Metroid game that has a vision and one that's just cashing checks. Metroid Dread, for much of its long rumored existence, was thought of as being the franchise's last great hope, or at least it was in certain circles of the fandom. People were obsessed with the idea that this game could push the franchise to new heights while also staying true to what had made the series so beloved. Longtime franchise producer Yoshio Sakamoto had originally intended Dread to be a game constructed for the DS. In many ways, the early rumors of the game sounded great, and just what the people had been wanting for decades. A more horror-forward version of the Metroid experience. For a franchise that always has a cool robot-suited chick going to alien worlds and fighting monsters, there's not a lot of horror that pops up in the games. Well, Sakamoto keyed into that with the idea of Dread and wanted to exploit it. Literally. He wanted to make a game to explore the dread of experiencing an unknown world. Granted, some of that had been explored in the stealth sequences in the franchise's previous game Fusion, which is exactly what he and the rest of the team initially wanted to build upon. With the existence of the game leaking in 2005 on an internal Nintendo software list of DS games that were going to be announced in the future, the initial rumors about the game varied in what exactly fans could expect to see. Almost from the jump, every rumor purported that the game had large aspirations. However, the reality of the game's life cycle would present one consistent issue, one that would be the main cause of all the delays, stops, and starts. The game's technical aspirations superseded what was capable for the hardware at the time. Rumor has it Sakamoto wanted very specific things for the enemy alien AI, and the limited scope of the DS's abilities on that front led to false starts, dead ends, and frustrating creative backtracking. But that didn't stop the fandom from hounding Sakamoto and anyone else even tangentially linked to the franchise for updates. Multiple times, insiders with key knowledge said that the project was dead. The technology just wasn't there. But no one would accept it. The game kept popping up. And the minute one of these reports would become public, there would be seemingly a counter leak saying that this report was not accurate. And in some cases, these reports came with eyewitness accounts, like a secret backroom demo of Dread that featured gameplay so similar to Fusion that multiple people initially thought it was just a port of the previous game in the franchise. The closest we got to official confirmation of the game's existence was with Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, featuring a message screen that reads, "Experiment Status Report Update. Metroid Project Dread is nearing the final stages of completion." Tragically, this would not springboard anything into reality other than mass speculation, more harassment of anyone working at Nintendo, and years of frustration from fans. Corruption was developed outside of Nintendo by Retro Studios, and they included this as an Easter egg for diehard fans in the know. Fast forward to 2010. Everyone assumes this game is just a long-form piece of performance art. a means for Sakamoto to screw with fans. Around this time, he gave an interview where he said that development had begun again on the game, but this go around, they would be starting from scratch. At this point, 5 years on, everyone was in disbelief. There was no way this game was real. And now, starting from scratch, no way this thing would ever see the light of day. One of the possibilities that fans loved to lob at him was that Metroid, Other M, Samus Returns, and other Metroid games from the era were abandoned, repurposed, or remixed ideas from Dread. Sakamoto consistently denied these claims, asking for fans to be patient. It must be an impossible problem to solve when you're in a position like this. Look, being an artist isn't always about going from point A to point B. It's not a straight line. It's a circuitous path, one filled with dead ends and frustration. And Metroid Dread is a perfect example. Nintendo has all the money in the world and access to the best and brightest creative brains walking the planet. And yet, the technical limitations, corporate politics, and creative impasses made the game's development protracted to the time that if it was a person, it could legally vote and rent a car. Eventually at E3 2021, Nintendo made the announcement. Metroid Dread would be released on the Switch and was developed in conjunction with the Spanish developer Mercury Steam. Dread, a side-scroller harkening back to the franchise's humble beginnings, was received very positively by fans and critics. Does the game live up to the sky-high expectations of the long gestation cycle the game survived? Frankly, no. How could it? Similarly to Duke Nukem Forever, the story behind the game just is better than any possible playable experience could justify. And with Nukem, that game actively sucks, making the narrative surrounding it even better. It's a look at all this effort which resulted in nothing cautionary tale. With Metroid Dread, it's a really good Metroidvania. Some might even say the best of the past 10 years. Fans of the genre are over the moon about it, but when you really consider it, it asks the question, what is the point of any of this? Is it making a game that's a fun distraction, or is it reinventing the wheel? Is it to produce a piece of art with true aspiration? That's all in the eye of the beholder, I suppose, but let's be real. It's not. It's a Metroidvania. I love them, don't get me wrong, but at this point, the genre is so codified that it's a very by-the-numbers experience. Metroid Dread had long been rumored to be the chosen one. It was going to be the next installment in the franchise that was going to truly push things in a new direction. And when it was finally released, it was a jaw-dropping accomplishment. It's a really great game. Development cycles that last 16 years are typically legally prohibited for producing really great games. It is the law, but the weight of the myth surrounding this thing ultimately taints the final product. It's hard to know if all of this lore about the stops, the starts, and attempts at really pushing the formal aspects of what a Metroidvania can do, and then play this game, which is admittedly awesome, and just be left wondering what could have been, and what heights could have been reached. Metroid Dread is one of the best in a recent revival of side-scrolling 2D platformers. It knows exactly what it is, and it attempts to be the best of all other entries into the genre. And that's commendable. It's shocking that it's even in conversation with other games like Hollow Knight or Grime, but it also bears the namesake of the genre and therefore, in the end, is crushed under the legacy of its forebearers. Well, that's all we have for this episode. What do you think? Was it worth the wait? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, please like, comment, and subscribe for more Nerdstalgic videos just like this.